In this video, we're going to be doing a 2,000 point battle report at a local one-day event hosted by Dice Arcade back in February. I brought along my 2,000 point Sylvaneth army led by General Warsong Revenant. Well, how did it do? Well, watch and find out. I've also tried to make this video to cater for non-Age of Sigmar players, so if you like miniature gaming, get your favorite snacks and enjoy the show.
If this is the battle report, then we have to talk about the list. For this competition, I'm going to be bringing my Sylvaneth, and it's going to have the sub-faction Gnarlwood, which gives me once per round I get to roll 3d6 for casting or unbind, and I get to keep the highest 2. And also I've got the Glade Dwindling, which gives me once per round I can re-roll cast or unbind. Now this is a themed army from the novel Warden of the Evergreen, because while I was painting the Lady of Vines, I enjoyed the novel so much I want to make an army out of it. Namely, it's going to be Ladies of Vine, Salston Prime, and a whole bunch of trees. So from that point, I'm just trying to make the rest of the army work. So my general is going to be the Warsong Revenant that has the War Scroll spell, Unleash the Swamp of Spirits, aka the Warsong Bomb. So what that is it's a 7 to cast with 9-inch range, and you roll a number of dice equal to the casting value for each unit in range, which is a big 9-inch bubble. On each 5+, it does 1 mortal wound to that unit. And also, this general has fueled by Gyaran's rage, and so there's a chance to escape death once as well. Now, I've given her the command Spellsinger that extends the casting range by an Awakened Wildwood. And of course, I have the endless spell Spite Swarm Hive for Durthu's charge, changing it from a 9-inch to a 6-inch charge, which is a significant boost. For me, I think that's a must-have. Now, I've given the artifact Greenwood Gladius to my Spirit of Durthu because he hits so hard, and now he's going to hit even harder. Because every time when he attacks, he gets to roll a d3 to add that number to his number of attacks. Since in the top bracket when he's in full health, he does 6 damage per an attack, so this can scale really well. And then for the battle lines, I have 1 Dryad and 2 Tree Revs for the ability to teleport to objectives, and the Dryads to protect my general. And to finish the list, I've wanted to add another Galatian champion in there to make the objectives, and that's going to be filled by Arch Revenant. Finally, I've added 1 more unit of Kurnoth Hunters with Scythes, just as a backup for Durthu. This army is 4 drops, 3 drops with the command entourage for getting an extra artifact for Warsong, and the rest are in the battle regiment. It's worth noting here that after I submit my list, right away I've realized I've chosen the wrong combination of artifact and spell on my Warsong, because I've picked Vesperal Gem and Dwellers Below. Really, I should have got Vesperal Gem with Tree Song. I think I would have enjoyed that more. So, what is my game plan? Well, number 1, I'm going to go with the Warsong Bomb combo. First, I'm going to lay a tree 3 inches away from the enemy and then bomb everything within 9 inches. That's right, because with the bomb, using Unleash the Swamp of Sprites scales very well with the casting roll, so I'm planning to use the saving of my 3d6 dice for the spell and re-rolling if necessary. Second, my plan is going to be involving Durthu. I'm going to be fully supporting this 1-striker ninja, prioritizing the buff as much as possible with my Spite Swarm Hive for the 3+ charge, because when he hits, he's going to hit really hard. And then the next thing I'm most excited about is the Salston Prime, because he's an incredible tech piece with a lot of utility. He can drop in turn 1 and use his Comet Strike Scepter to do d3 mortal wounds on a point map 24 inches away with a 3-inch radius. Not lethal by itself, but when you pair it together with Warsong Bomb, it can be potentially dangerous. Next, of course, he can also stay in reserve and wind up his Galmaraz, and for every turn that he stays in reserve, he gets an extra 2 attack with his Galmaraz with 3 rend and 3 damage. So if he lands on turn 3, he can have 7 attacks, 3 to hit, 2 to wound, 3 rend with 3 damage. That's pretty good. Now, he also has a good ward save of 4+ with 3+ armor, so I expect he's going to be able to do a lot of things. Now, if that's not it, because he's in reserve, that may trick the opponent to position the army a little bit out of place, so I'm hoping he would work well. Now, because my army is built around a few very expensive pieces, so I need to protect them well, and that's what the Dryads is going to do. I launched the army with one Dryad, and my Ladies of Vine can also summon another one. So hopefully I can block some choke points if needed to keep the generals alive. Last but not least, I've got 2 teams of 5 tree revs that allows them to teleport anywhere within the map as long as they're 9 inches away from enemies. And that's not relying on places of power or wildwood, so they can literally go anywhere. I probably don't need 2 of them, but I want to be safe, so that's my list. Now, it's probably worth mentioning this is the first time I take my Sylvaneth to an event, so I don't really know how my theory crafting is going to work out, but that's also kind of exciting. And let's see how it goes. So game day! I got there on time, but it wasn't enough to prepare me for what would happen next. Game number 1, I was against Ossiarch BoneReapers OBR, and I immediately felt I was at a disadvantage because I had no idea how they play, and Sam, my opponent, seems to know exactly how my army works. I think we spent quite a lot of time talking about things in OBR, namely all the different commands and all the different things they do, and they issue commands, but they're not command points, all very confusing. So after we spent a big chunk of time talking about that, which by the way is also another aspect I love about the game and the community, how people are so friendly, Sam was great, and so happy and take the time and effort to talk about how the army works. So there's no really gotcha feeling where at the end of the game you feel like you've lost because of some hidden hack you didn't know about. But this one really did take a while. Because it didn't end with OBR, I had to explain some of my other units. Because there's some odd choices in my unit as well. No one uses Ladies of Vine, and there I am using him. So I have to explain how she works and some of the knickknacks in my army. So on terrain placement, I put my wildwood at the back of the map in the corner just to block the line of sight and giving my big bubble for my Warsong bomb in case they rush me. And on the OBR side, they placed a big scary temple right in the middle of the map. I think it had something like 18 range with ridiculous buffs. So, and I mean debuffs. Yeah. So round 1. Okay, we were both 4 drops and I went first. So this is where the inexperience of me playing Sylvaneth came in. There was quite a lot of spells and effects to trigger. I went for the first Warsong bomb. I rolled a 7, which was successful, but I was too greedy. I decided to re-roll that for more mortal wounds, and I got a 5 spell. I've almost completely forgot this endless spell, Spike Swarm Hive. Whew, that's a big one. So that means no extra charge for Spirit of Earth. And being a little bit inexperienced and greedy, I tried to charge Durthu in the middle of the map, and he failed. Yep. I got a couple of hits in with my other units, but yeah, I was preparing myself for carnage. By the end of that round, I did miss my battle tactic because Durthu failed, and yeah, he was totally surrounded and was taken off the field. So, first round, I didn't do much and lost my biggest hammer ever. So, yeah, sad times. So, round 2, I lost my priority row, and it's all carnage. Ossiarch BoneReapers is closed in, and Mawtribes guards closing into my key areas of my front lines, and I had no choice but to fight them head on. Somehow, some of my key units survived. And then it was my turn. And this is a time where we're in dire need of our Warden's savior, Salston Prime. With OBR moving the entire backline up, there was an opening to descend the Prime right at the back and taking out the big Archon the Black. There's super buffer, and I managed to play my Warsong and his bomb properly now, so I was able to do a serious number of mortal wounds. Now the front lines, I was able to remove the Bone Harvester and do some damage to the Mawtribes guards, but man, they were tough, so they were in the gridlock. My front lines were doing okay, but some clever placements from Sam means I wasn't able to engage all the people I would like to engage. Surprisingly though, my Lady of Vines held her own pretty well in the front lines, and it was going toe to toe with 2 ranks of Mawtribes guards. Very nice. Now I've got my objective and my tactics this time, but when it was OBR's turn, there was some more carnage. Yes, I lost some tree revs in my front line, but my Salston Prime was able to save himself. Behind 3+ save and 4+ ward, just to keep himself on 1 HP from the fury blows of Death Dealers. And then it was round 3. I was able to win the priority roll, and I immediately landed my big Warsong bomb and deal a significant amount of mortal wounds. plus Celestin Prime was able to use his Meteoric Scepter to do some significant damage to finish off some of the heroes that was lying around. At this point, I was having the advantage of taking out all of my opponent's GCs, which means he would no longer be able to reach some of his battle tactics later on in the game. But time was running out, there was literally only 10 minutes left and we were going to overtime already. So at that point, even though I had more GCs and he had no GCs, which means my potential for getting battle tactics is higher. But right now, because in the first turn my Durthu messed up, or I messed up to Durthu, he does have more points on the board right now. So at that point in time, I conceded. It was game well played, Sam. And I've learned my lessons. Don't lose your Durthu in the first turn. Because if I should have played it out, maybe I could have won. I still have my big Warsong Revenant to cast a lot more bombs. But then again, my frontline heavy hitters were gone. So it's a bit of theory crafting. It could have gone either way. I think it's right that Sam got the win here. Well done, Ossiarch BoneReapers. I look to see you again in the future. In game number 2, I was against Ogors. Lots of ogres. Now that I learned my lesson. Keep my Durthu in the back and use a lot of Warsong bombs. Now I've never fought ogres before, and this is an interesting formation because I know they've got strong ogre charges and my opponent have 2 really big cannons. They look scary. Never fought them before, so I'm hiding behind my trees this time, taking it real safe, being really far away from the board and just trying to do my bombs as much as I can. Patience is a virtue. So this time I've chosen to do my terrain faction Wildwood right in the center middle of my territory. Hopefully blocking a lot of line of sight from the cannon, and also it's there front enough to hopefully block his charges because the enemy might be fearing my Warsong Bomb. I won the priority roll, so therefore, learning from my mistakes, I've gone first again this time, but following my rules that I set for myself. Stay back and bomb. So the first turn I cast the trees with my first spell, and then right after that I used my 3d6 to cast my Warsong Bomb, straight away dealing a moderate amount of mortal wounds to the enemy army. And then from there I also did some chip damage onto the enemy, and then that's it for my first turn. And then I used my 2 tree revs to go to the side of the map to control the objectives, so I get more objectives. I got 2 objectives and net me a total of 5 points after I did desecrate their lands. So far it's looking better than the last game. On the Ogor's turn, they slowly moved their army up front, moving the ranks to the front with the big beast coming to the middle terrain there. And of course there was some cannon fire, but this time I was lucky. The way I've placed my army were quite difficult to hit for the cannon, and the cannon also missed one of their shots. Round 2. I won the priority roll again, and I opt to go first because while the enemy's all bunched up, I want to use my Warsong Bomb to do maximum amount of damage. And it did. I got very lucky with a big roll, and it did a significant amount of damage to the Ogor armies. A lot of them are either half dead or 1/3 dead, and they're still very far away from me. I chose to stay back as much as I can, only using my ninja 1-strike Durthu to go out and cleave the enemy monster. And that will hit my battle tactic as well. At the end of round 2, things are looking good. Now during the Ogre's turn, they didn't have a lot of options left. With only half the forces remaining, they had to either choose to come straight at me or try to get as much battle tactics and objectives as possible. However, in round 3, I won priority roll again. It seems like the dice god is on my side this time. Oh, hell, the Evergreen! And as the same as last turn, the Warsong Bomb continues to explode in the Ogres' faces. Not a good day for the Ogres, and there wasn't too much they could do because at this point in time, there were no more wizards available to dispel the Warsong Bomb. Even if they did, the Warsong Bomb has been getting casting value of 10, 11, 12, so even if they could unbind it, it's going to be a bit challenging. And how we got that high is Warsong Revenant does have an innate +1 to cast, and I was next to a mythic terrain, so that helped a lot. I feel sorry for the Ogres. The game ended with Celestin Prime coming from the top, raging with his Galmaraz, and of course Durthu cleaning up the other side of the map. That game ended in turn 3. The game was pretty much finished at that point. I had some pretty lucky rolls, but I would have to say this is a pretty bad matchup for the Ogres. I didn't think there were too much they could have done that game. Okay, so Sylvaneth, 1 win, 1 loss, going to game 3. Game 3 against Beast of Chaos. Now, big shout out to Gyaran. He produced a 1-sheet summary of all the shenanigans that his army can do. I thought it was super thoughtful. Why didn't I think of that? Well, because he's a smarter guy than me. Well done. Thank you, Jared. So before the game started, I had a rough idea of what they did. Of course, this new book, I've really never played them before. Inexperience here kick in again, but did I learn my lesson from the first game? Yes, I did. So I'm looking forward to this one. Pre-game faction terrain placement. Well, the Beast of Chaos put the shrine right in the back corner. Well, what does it do? It does a couple of things. One of them is, as the game goes on, he gets more rend. So starting with -1 rend, eventually gets to +2 rend. So it's going to be pretty painful if I drag the game on. The second thing is that his grand strategy is actually tied to his shrine. So at the end of the game, if there's nothing of my units next to his shrine, so either I have to destroy it or I gotta get my units out there. Well, lucky for me, I got some tree rev, so I'm not too worried. And of course, I've got Skeleton Prime as well. Well, let's see how we go. Round 1, I won the priority roll. Lucky for me. So this time, I actually do remember to summon the Lady of Vines Dryads straight up. I'm slowly getting my tree across the board. So this time, I am not too sure what to do with Beasts of Chaos. So I'm going a little bit more defensive and building my perimeters as I go. So it's round 1, all I want to do is get my tree closer to him and then start controlling the objectives. So, 5 points for me. Beast of Chaos turn. Basically, the whole army moved to the front, and a very scary looking end spell came. Basically, it would make me strike last. Scary. But in this case, because at the beginning of the game, he only could reach my Dryads on the left flank. As soon as I saw that, I was prepared to say goodbye to my good old Dryads. Surprisingly, they lived. But what I was... At the same time, he has moved on to my right flank as well. He has pinned my overextended tree revs on my objectives. And then on the far right, a group of beasts is trying to charge into the choke point through my Dryads to get into my Warsong Revenant. So, Dryads must hold the line at all costs. At this point in time, he still have 3 units in reserve to do their shenanigans, and it's making me feel very uneasy. But there's nothing I can do about it. So at end of round 1, 3 units in reserve for him, 1 in reserve for me. We both scored 5 points. Round 2, I lost a priority roll, and Beast of Chaos now gets to have their way and wreck some havoc. It's very fortunate on my left flank where my 1 Dryad held back a number of key pieces from the enemy. That -1 to hit and to wound is nothing to laugh at. 100 points held up many hundred points. Good job. But of course they didn't last any longer. And on the right flank, very far right, my Dryads are still holding back a group of beastmen. And on my mid-right flank, I have lost my tree revs to the enemy. And around for Beasts of Chaos, scoring 4 points with battle tactics and 2 objectives. Now is the tree time. At this point, all I want to do is repeat my tree and my Warsong bomb as much as possible. But my opponent seems to know Sylvaneth pretty well. He knew to spread his forces out just in the right way, so there is really no target where I can bomb lots of units in one go. Also now in round 2, I'm starting to feel the effect of the Sigmar, which is this gigantic beast with 1 eye that throws a big rock, and it somehow hit me. And also it's an anti-mage piece, so every time when I cast a spell, I take 1 mortal wound. In the first round, because I was so far, so some of the casting effect didn't hit me, and also there was an innate ability from Sylvaneth to heal 1 wound when it's my turn, so it didn't really felt like it was a problem. But now I'm casting a lot more spells and he's getting closer. My heroes, which doesn't have a lot of health, is starting to dwindle a little bit. Like my Lady of Vines, who has done nothing but casting spells, has already taken 3 mortal wounds. Ouch. But what I have got for me is I've got this Swarm Hive, so I can get a +3 charge to Durthu, and I wasted no time. Charged Durthu into Sigmar, the big beast, and took him out, getting my battle tactic, and I felt like I've taken a big piece down from his side. I gave a priority to casting the 5-up ward from Lady of Vines. I felt that was super important rather than doing extra damage. So I'm on the defensive this turn. I did move my Arch Revenant and my Cone of Hunters up to my mid-right to contest the objectives, but other than that, I am not moving all that much. I still don't know what the shenanigans the Beasts of Chaos have. I know they can lure me out, but I don't know how that's going to materialize, so I'm just going to play safe. At this point in time, Sylvaneth Prime is still up in reserve, watching over the battlefield. At the end of round, Beast of Chaos control slightly more objectives than me, so Beast of Chaos ending the round at 10 victory points, Sylvaneth on 9 victory. Round 3, Beast of Chaos has won the priority row again. Oh no. Thinking the Sylvaneth. I knew there was going to be trouble, but I didn't know that was going to be that much trouble. What I found out was all the Doom, Boo, and Boogers in reserve is coming onto the board to murder my Durthu, and there wasn't too much I could do about it. And also he's pushing his main force to the middle of the board. He's got a pretty scary piece, the Cockatrice, in the middle of the board, where he can pick one unit within 6 inch if you get a 4 plus 3 mortal wounds, and also then my unit have to roll 6 to hit. Bad, very bad. So I'm trying to stay away from that. There's it, I got an option. So at this round, there wasn't too much I can do except to watch my Durthu and my people getting murdered by the Beast of Chaos. Well played, sir. The carnage didn't end there though, because these new reinforcements, the Doombu and the Boogors, both do mortal wounds after they charge. So immediately they destroyed my Durthu. And then the leader managed to close the gap into my Warsong Revenant, going for that killing blow, because if he successfully take out my Warsong Revenant, the game's over. Just saying, I love these moments in the game. I was just forced to watch the combat play out. But, all hail the Everqueen! Even though the hero Doombu managed to get into my Warsong Revenant did survive with 1 wound left because of the Gyaran Rage. And of course the 4+ ward save. Phew! What a clutch moment. So even though most of my backline was decimated, my Warsong Revenant delivering a decisive because of death blow with the Galmaraz together with ladies with an unstoppable carnage. The remaining threat in the backline. To my relief, the Boogors were dangerously offensive, but they're not very good at defending. So I was able to clean them out without too much problems. During my turn, nothing glorious. I just managed to fight back everything in the backline. But it's worth mentioning, now I get a Warden of the Everqueen moment. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read the book, now I'm gonna ruin something for you, so you might want to mute this part for the next 10 seconds. Sylvaneth Prime dropped in the back line of the map and managed to wipe out most of Beast of Chaos's backline, just exactly like in the book. So by the end of the round, I have got 5 points, Beast of Chaos 5 points, I'm generally 1 point down, I've lost my hammer, my defensive backline, but my key pieces, except for Spirit of Durthu, are still on the board, while the Beast of Chaos is not looking so good for them. I think he didn't account for Sylvaneth Prime doing so much damage on the third turn. And with that, turn 4, yes! I won the priority roll, and Sylvaneth Prime, together with Warsong Bomb, wreaked havoc on the enemy forces. I think at this point, there isn't too much the Beast of Chaos can do to come back. However, I mean, there's still a chance to do some battle tactics, because there are some pieces left. If we played out to the 5th round, I think there'll be nothing left. At that point, it was pretty much hitting the 2.5 hour mark. A very intense and a good game. To be honest, it really could have gone both ways, so I'm very happy that in the clutch moment, the Warsong Revenant stayed alive with the fueled by Gyaran Rage. Very fortunate. In round 4 though, finally my Dryad, my 10 Dryad with 100 points, with -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and a 5+ ward bubble have lasted the entire game against the Beast of Chaos. So clap, clap, clap for them. I really didn't expect they would last that long. And I'm kind of glad they did, because Dryads did seem to play a key role in the Wardens of the Everqueen. So, cool. Kudos. Nice one, Dryads. Nice one. Final thoughts. How did the day go? Well, the day was extremely fun. Kudos to Tom, the organizer at DICE. It was a very nicely organized tournament. Had a lot of fun. Had a good time there. The players were fantastic. Everyone I played with were great. And thank you for helping me to learn my rules as well. The MVP of this army is certainly the Warsong Revenant with the Warsong Bomb. That unbelievable damage. If it wasn't for that, I would have lost, I think. I simply couldn't keep up with the output compared to the enemy. And particularly with the game against Ogres, I didn't think there was much of a counter that could have been done against the Warsong Revenant and the Warsong Bomb. The most surprising units were the Lady of Irons and the Salazar Prime. Initially, I only put Salazar Prime Ladies of Iron in the list because they were thematic. But Ladies of Irons with 5+ ward, with a bit of help for casting, I think that is super important. If I didn't have to reroll or being able to cast 3d6, it probably wouldn't have gone off as often as it did, and the game would have changed quite a bit. And then the Salazar Prime, I think the Comet Strike Scepter, being able to do the 3 extra mortal wounds, let's say over 2 rounds, it really made a difference and be able to kill the units. And then on the other hand, having the ability to drop down behind enemy lines as they move up was very useful. I think there's a bit of psychology in play here, because if you don't come forward, the Warsong Bomb is going to bomb you. And it's going to be a significant amount of mortal wounds for you to deal with. It's going to be too much. But then if you move forward, you're leaving a gap for Salazar Prime to drop behind your most important units, and it could take them out. So, it's a success, because it was such a fun day. Win or lose, had a great time. I think at the end of the day, I came 5th overall, but even if I didn't, I think I would have equally as much of a good time. Thank you to everyone who played with me and to put up with me and allow me to take photos and videos. Thank you. And I hope to all you Sylvaneth players who's watching out there, this gave you a little bit of information to help you build your list or play in tournaments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video in any way, shape or form, do drop me a line, and you can show your support potentially by hitting the subscribe and the like button, or leave me a message. All of these will help the channel, help me to put more content forward. Of course, none of this is sponsored. We're just doing it for the fun and contribution back to the community. And thank you for watching. If you like this, you might want to check out another playthrough at the last tournament, or you can look at our other playthrough or unboxing videos. It's just fun. So, thank you for watching. Let's level up. Let's have some more plastic hype and spread the love to the world. Thank you and goodbye.